Rain hammered the windshield so hard Elara could barely see the road. She clutched the steering wheel tighter, violin case beside her, praying she'd make it home before the storm worsened. She didn't. A pair of headlights appeared out of nowhere, too close, too fast. She swerved, tires losing grip on the slick asphalt. Her little car spun, skidding sideways until it slammed into a black SUV with a bone-shaking crack. Silence. Then the rain again. Elara pushed open her door with shaking hands. I'm so sorry I didn't see. Her voice died. The SUV door opened slowly, deliberately, like whoever was inside didn't rush for anyone. A tall man stepped out, umbrella in one hand, the other tucked casually into the pocket of a tailored, rain-darkened coat. He didn't look angry. He looked intrigued. His gaze swept over her, wet hair plastered to her cheeks, trembling fingers, wide, frightened eyes. Something in his expression sharpened. "You're hurt?" he asked, stepping closer. "And no, I don't think so. I'm really sorry." He caught her chin between two fingers, tilting her face up. The touch was firm, unyielding, nothing like anyone had ever dared to do to her. "You crashed into the wrong man tonight," he said quietly. His voice was deep, textured, dangerously calm. Her breath stuttered. She couldn't look away. He studied her like she was a puzzle he intended to take apart piece by piece. Rain dripped off his coat, his umbrella forgotten as he leaned in slightly, enough that she felt his breath against her cheek. "I'm not angry," he murmured. "If anything, I'm curious." "Curious?" she whispered. A slow, dark smile curved his mouth. "About you, Kara. About how someone so innocent ended up in front of my car." His thumb brushed her jaw, sending heat down her spine. Elara swallowed hard. I didn't mean." "No," he said, releasing her chin only to rest his hand at the base of her throat, thumb feeling her racing pulse. "But that doesn't matter. You touched what's mine. And debts must be paid." She froze, heartbeat thundering beneath his palm. What do you want?" Luciano Vale, the man she had crashed into, lowered his head until his lips nearly grazed her ear. "I'll decide that soon," he whispered. "And you'll listen." The rain roared on. Her life had just changed forever. Elara stood shivering beside her dented car as men in black suits appeared from the shadows, silent, disciplined, and clearly waiting for orders from him. Luciano didn't even glance at the wreckage. His eyes were fixed on her. "Come," he said. It wasn't a request. She hesitated, glancing at the guards. Where are we going?" He stepped close, too close, his fingers brushing a wet curl from her cheek. "Away from the road. Away from the eyes watching us. You caused damage tonight, Piccola. I need to assess how much." Her stomach tightened. I don't have much money, but I can try to." A soft laugh escaped him, dark and amused. "Money? No. That's not your currency." He lifted her violin case from her trembling hands, opening it without asking. The instrument glowed even in the dim light. "You're a musician," he said, voice dropping. "That explains the hands." His gaze flicked to her slender fingers, lingering too long. Delicate. Precise. She felt heat crawl up her throat. "I didn't mean to hit your—" "You hit a vehicle carrying something very important." His fingertips slid along the violin's polished wood, then back to her wrist. He wrapped his hand around it lightly, guiding her toward a waiting car. "And until I decide how you'll compensate me, you're not going anywhere." Her breath caught. "You can't just take me." He paused. Only inches separated them. Rain dripped from his jawline. "Sweetheart," he murmured, "I am being very generous right now. If anyone else had crashed into that SUV, they'd be in the trunk, not beside me." Her pulse spiked, fear and something hotter tangled together. Luciano leaned in, his hand sliding up her arm. Slow, intentional, possessive. "You will stay with me until this is resolved," he said. "I want you where I can see you. Where I can understand you." "I don't understand," she whispered. "No," he agreed. "But you will." He opened the car door for her. His voice dropped to a command wrapped in silk. "Get in, Elara." Against every instinct, every warning flashing in her mind, she did. The drive to Luciano's estate was silent except for Elara's uneven breaths. She kept her hands folded tightly in her lap, aware of his gaze drifting to her every few seconds, measuring her, reading her like a song he planned to play until she broke. When the gates opened, her heart dropped. The mansion was enormous, stone, iron, shadows, and power. Luciano stepped out first and waited, not offering his hand, but expecting her to follow. Inside, the lights were warm, golden, far too elegant for a man whose presence felt like a knife wrapped in velvet. He led her down a hallway lined with dark paintings and heavy doors. "You'll stay in this room," he said, opening one for her. It was stunning, soft lighting, silk sheets, a balcony overlooking the storm. It did not feel like a guest room. It felt chosen. "I don't understand why I have to stay here," Elara said, voice trembling despite her attempt at courage. "I told you I can fix whatever damage I caused." Luciano stepped in behind her, closing the door with a quiet click that made her breath catch. "You caused more than damage," he said. "You disrupted a very important exchange. Those documents were delicate. One mistake." His fingers brushed her shoulder blade, sending a shiver down her spine. "And everything falls apart." She struggled to speak. "I didn't know." "I know." His hand slid from her shoulder down her arm, slow enough to make her knees weaken. "Which is why you're here. Innocence interests me." He noticed her violin case on the bed and picked it up, opening it again. "Play something," he said. Her eyes widened. "Now?" "Yes, now." She sat stiffly on the edge of the bed, lifting the violin. As she adjusted her posture, her knees parted slightly, natural for the instrument. Luciano's gaze dropped instantly. He stepped closer, voice dipping into something wickedly soft. "Careful, Piccola," he murmured. "Sit like that in front of me and you'll make me say things I shouldn't." Her cheeks burned. "I'm just positioning." His eyes darkened. "You have no idea how distracting you look like this." She swallowed. "Do you want me to stop?" "No," he whispered, leaning close enough that she felt his breath on her thigh. "I could spend all day between your legs, watching you play." The bow slipped in her shaking hand. Elara didn't sleep. How could she? Luciano's voice kept replaying in her head, curling around her like smoke. "I could spend all day between your legs, watching you play." No one had ever spoken to her like that. No one had ever looked at her like that. By morning she decided she needed answers. She needed distance. She cracked open her bedroom door, peeking into the hallway. Empty. Quietly, too quietly, she stepped out. She made it 6 steps before a hand closed around her waist. She gasped as Luciano pulled her back against him, his breath brushing her ear. "Going somewhere?" he asked softly, too softly. His tone was calm, but the grip around her waist was firm, dominant, pulling her flush against the strength of him. "I just wanted to look around," she whispered. "You disobeyed me before breakfast," he said. Bold. "I wasn't disobeying." He turned her gently but decisively to face him, his hands resting at her hips, holding her still. "You don't wander alone," he said. "Not in my house. Not in my world." Her heart pounded. "Then tell me the rules." "I can't follow what I don't know." His eyes flicked down her body, then back to her trembling mouth. "Rule 1, he murmured, "you stay where I put you." Her breath caught as he slid one hand up her spine, the other tightening at her hip. "Rule 2, you come to me if you need something." "Anything." "Anything?" she whispered. A slow smile touched his lips. "Careful how you ask that, Piccola. I'm a man who takes his words seriously." Her pulse thudded so hard she thought he felt it. "And rule 3. His fingers lightly traced the line of her waist, making her knees soften. "You don't lie to me. Ever." Her voice barely worked. "I'm not lying." "No," he said, leaning close enough that his forehead brushed hers. "You're just afraid of wanting something you think you shouldn't." She stiffened. "I don't." Luciano cut her off with a low hum. Not a word, just a sound that vibrated against her skin. He moved his hands from her waist, slow and deliberate, leaving her unsteady. "You'll stay in your room until I call for you," he said. "I don't want you out of my sight for long." "And if I don't?" she whispered. He stepped back, gaze burning. "Then I'll come find you." Elara's chance to breathe came later that afternoon, when Luciano allowed her a brief trip, escorted, to the music hall where she rehearsed. She clutched her violin case, trying to ignore the 2 men shadowing her in the aisle seats. She'd just finished her warm-up when the hairs on her arms stood on end. Someone else was watching her. A man she didn't recognize lingered by the exit, dark jacket, hood up, gaze fixed on her like she was prey. When she stepped off stage, he moved toward her. "You're Vale's girl, aren't you?" he asked in a low, mocking tone. Her chest tightened. I don't know what you mean." "Oh, you know." He stepped closer. "Word travels fast." He brought a little innocent into his home. "I wanted to see what makes the king break his own rules." Elara backed away. She barely made it 3 steps before a strong hand clamped around her arm. "Don't scream," the man hissed. I just want to talk. But she did scream, sharp, panicked, louder than she meant to. It didn't matter. Luciano was already there. The doors slammed open. His presence filled the entire hall, dark coat, darker eyes, jaw tight with lethal fury. Two of his men stormed in behind him. Luciano didn't shout. He didn't have to. The way he looked at the man holding her was enough to drain the blood from the walls. Let her go, Luciano said, voice so calm it was terrifying. The man shoved Elara aside and bolted. Luciano's guards chased him, but Luciano didn't even look their way. He went to her. His hands were on her immediately, one at her waist, the other cupping her face, tilting it up to his. His touch wasn't gentle. It was frantic, possessive, fueled by something he could not hide. Did he hurt you? He demanded, scanning her arms, her throat, every inch of her. And no, she whispered. He pulled her closer anyway, his breath unsteady against her cheek. Do you understand now? He said, voice rough. Why you don't wander? Why you stay where I put you? Her fingers clutched his coat. I didn't know someone would. Luciano's grip tightened at her waist. No one, he growled, touches what I'm keeping. The hall felt too small. His fury too intimate. His protectiveness too much. But he didn't let her go. Not even when the danger had passed. Luciano didn't release Elara until his guards returned and confirmed the man had been handled. Even then, his grip stayed firm at her waist, as if letting go would invite the world to snatch her again. Come, he said, voice low and unreadable. He guided her outside with a protectiveness that hovered just short of a snarl. His hand never left her, sometimes at her lower back, sometimes at the curve of her hip, always reminding her she was within reach. Back at the mansion, he dismissed his men with a single look. The door shut behind them, sealing her in with him and the storm brewing in his chest. Sit, he ordered, gently pushing her onto a velvet chaise. She obeyed, mostly because her legs felt like water. Luciano crouched in front of her, gloved hands peeling off as he examined her arms. A faint red mark from where the stranger grabbed her stood out on her skin. His eyes went dark. Tell me he didn't do this, he said, his thumb brushing the mark with a slowness that made her breath catch. It doesn't hurt, she whispered. That wasn't the question. His thumb lingered. His jaw clenched. Then unexpectedly he lowered his head and pressed his lips to the red spot, soft, careful, reverent in a way that stole her breath. Her heart lurched. Luciano. He looked up at her from where he knelt, and for a moment, his dominance softened into something terrifyingly vulnerable. You scared me, he admitted. I don't get scared. Elara swallowed, heat rising to her cheeks. I didn't mean to. His hand slid up, cupping her cheek. I know you didn't. His thumb traced her lower lip, slow enough to feel like a question he wasn't quite willing to voice. But if something happened to you because of me? He stopped. The thought alone seemed to strain him. She whispered, nothing happened. Because I got there. His voice deepened, fierce and protective. Because you called for me. Because some part of you knew I'd come. Her breath trembled. I didn't think, I just panicked. There's a difference, he murmured, leaning closer, between panic and instinct. His forehead brushed hers, breaths mingling, too intimate, too warm. And your instinct, Luciano whispered, was mine. For the rest of the day, Luciano didn't let Elara drift more than a few steps from him. Meetings happened with her in the room. Phone calls were taken with him watching her over the rim of his glass. Every time she shifted, his eyes flicked to her, checking, measuring, claiming. By evening, the storm outside mirrored the tension between them. Elara stood by the balcony doors trying to gather her thoughts. She could feel his gaze on her back long before he spoke. You're quiet, he said. I'm thinking. That's dangerous, he murmured. For both of us. She turned to face him. He stood beside the fireplace, sleeves rolled up, the glow outlining the sharp angles of his jaw. He looked like a man built from shadows and fire. I need to know the truth, she said. What was in that car? Why does it matter so much? Luciano's expression tightened, not in anger but in restraint. As if the truth itself was a weapon. He walked toward her, each step slow and deliberate. When he stopped in front of her, she felt the warmth of his body before he touched her. What you destroyed, he said softly, was a peace agreement. One I've spent years trying to negotiate. Elara's breath caught. Peace? You mean, for the Mafia? For everyone, he said. My family. My men. This entire city. His fingers brushed her wrist as if grounding himself. I've been trying to end the bloodshed that men before me worshipped. She stared at him, stunned. I didn't know. I swear. I know you didn't. His hand slid to her waist, pulling her a fraction closer. But your accident wasn't just an accident. Someone leaked the meeting location. Someone wanted that piece destroyed. Her pulse quickened. And I got in the way. His thumb stroked her hip, slow and devastating. You became the perfect excuse for my enemies to strike. A weakness they think they can exploit. I'm not a weakness, she whispered. His eyes darkened. No. You're a pressure point. Something they know I'll protect. She swallowed. What? You barely know me. Luciano leaned in, voice dropping to a possessive whisper against her ear. I know enough. His breath grazed her neck. I know you're mine to keep safe. And the way he said mine made her entire body go warm. The next night the mansion felt different, too quiet, too watchful. Luciano paced the study with a tension Elara could feel through the walls. She'd never seen him unsettled before. It made her chest tighten in a way she didn't understand. A guard entered, whispering urgently in Luciano's ear. Luciano's expression sharpened. What is it? Elara asked from the doorway. He turned jaw tight. Someone got past the outer gate. Stay in your room. Do not move. His tone was a command wrapped in iron. But, Elara. His eyes locked on hers. I'm not asking. He brushed past her, sliding a gun from the desk drawer as he went. She had never seen him look so lethal. She backed into her room, heart pounding, but something felt wrong. Too quiet, too still. The house wasn't reacting. No alarms. No shouting. Nothing. That's when she saw it. A flash of movement at the end of the corridor. Not Luciano. Someone else. Elara's breath caught. She ducked back into the room, pressing against the wall. Footsteps approached. Slow, deliberate hunting. She looked around desperately. Her violin case lay open on her bed. Her pulse thudded. Her hands moved. She grabbed the thin folder of papers Luciano had left on her table earlier. Maps, notes, the only copies of the restored agreement he was rebuilding. If the intruder wanted leverage, this was it. She slipped onto the balcony, hiding the documents beneath her clothes just as the door creaked open behind her. A voice growled, "Where is it?" Elara's breath froze. Then, a gunshot. A body hit the floor. Elara. Luciano's voice thundered down the hall. She rushed back inside just as he appeared. He scanned her frantically for injuries, hands gripping her shoulders too tightly. Are you hurt? No, she breathed. But he was searching for these. She pulled the papers from beneath her blouse, trembling but steady. Luciano stared, first at the papers then at her. His chest rose sharply like he'd been drowning. You hid them, he said softly. You protected them. You said they were important. Luciano cupped her face with both hands, his thumbs brushing her cheeks, his expression fierce and shaken. You could have been killed. But you would have been ruined. His forehead pressed to hers, breaths mingling. You don't obey, he whispered, voice breaking into something raw. But you saved me anyway. She swallowed. I didn't want you hurt. His hands tightened. Then understand this, Elara, he murmured. I will burn the world before I let you be. Elena wasn't sure if the silence pressing between them was safer than the truth they were both avoiding. Christian's penthouse was dim, lit only by the golden glow spilling from the tall windows. Outside, the city pulsed with distant danger, but inside, the danger felt closer. Personal. Inevitable. Christian stood in front of the window, jacket off, sleeves rolled to his elbows, tension carved into every line of his body. The storm inside him had been building for days, ever since she kissed him first without meaning to, ever since he realized she wasn't running anymore. When she stepped closer, he felt it. Christian, she whispered, voice softer than the city lights. You're scaring me. He turned, eyes dark, too dark. Good, he murmured, walking toward her with slow, deliberate steps. Because if you knew how much I want you, you'd be terrified. Her breath caught, but she didn't move. Didn't retreat. His fingers slid under her chin, tilting her face up so he could study every flutter in her lashes. You think I'm dangerous out there, he continued quietly, but you have no idea what you do to me in here. When her lips parted to answer, he stepped closer, until her back brushed the wall, until his breath warmed her cheek. His body didn't touch hers, but it felt like it did. The energy between them pulsed, heavy and consuming. Say it, he murmured. Tell me you feel this too. Her pulse thundered. I feel it. Her pulse thundered. I feel it. His jaw tightened, the confession hitting him like a blow. Then understand something, Elena? His hand slid down, not touching her, only hovering over the curve of her waist, the line of her thigh, close enough to burn. I'm done pretending I can stay away. She swallowed, trembling. Christian? No, his voice deepened, possessive and raw. Tonight, you don't get to walk away from me. He finally touched her, his thumb brushing the inside of her wrist, slow, intentional, sending a shiver racing up her arm. His lips were inches from hers, close enough to taste the heat between them. You're mine tonight, he whispered. And I'm done fighting what's already happening to us. Her breath broke. Then, don't fight. His eyes flared, the last shred of restraint unraveling. Elena, he whispered against her mouth, I'm going to make sure you never forget this night. And when she didn't pull back, he stopped holding back. Christian didn't kiss her at first. He hovered there, breath warm, body caging her against the wall without touching her fully. It was punishment. It was temptation. It was control. Look at me, he commanded quietly. Elena lifted her eyes, and that was all it took for his restraint to fracture. He slid a hand to her waist, finally closing the distance. His touch was slow, claiming, possessive, like he'd waited too long and now refused to rush a single moment. She felt every inch of what he wasn't saying, every emotion he'd buried under violence and power. You undo me, he murmured, lips brushing her cheek, her jaw, the corner of her mouth. Each almost kiss made her body tighten. Every time I tell myself to stay away, you pull me back. Her fingers curled into his shirt, not to stop him but to anchor herself. Then don't stay away, she whispered. Christian exhaled sharply, a sound too close to surrender. He pressed her to the wall with his chest, one arm sliding behind her waist, holding her like he'd claimed something precious and breakable. His other hand rose to her throat, not squeezing, just resting there, feeling the racing beat beneath his thumb. Do you have any idea, he whispered darkly, how long I've imagined having you like this? She trembled, not from fear but from the intensity in his voice. His forehead touched hers, his breath uneven. I told myself you were innocent, untouchable, a distraction I couldn't afford. His fingers traced the side of her neck. But you're none of those things to me. You're the only thing I want. Her lips brushed his. Christian? That broke him. He kissed her, slow, deep, consuming, as if he'd been starving and she was the only thing that could quiet him. The world outside disappeared. There was no mafia, no enemies, no danger. Only heat, need, and the way he held her like she belonged nowhere else but in his arms. When they finally pulled apart, breathless, his voice was raw. You're mine now, he whispered. And I'm yours. Whether either of us is ready for that or not. Elena touched his cheek, softening him instantly. Then don't ever let me go. Christian wrapped both arms around her, pulling her against his chest. Never. The night didn't end there. It changed them. Irrevocably.